In the early 1970s, computers were very big and very expensive. Only large companies, universities, and governments could afford them. Regular people did not have computers at home. Most computers filled entire rooms. They were called mainframes. People used punch cards to give them instructions. Personal computers did not really exist yet. But things started to change in the mid-1970s. New small computer chips called microprocessors were invented. These chips made it possible to build smaller computers. In 1975, a small computer called the Altair 8800 was released. It was sold as a kit. People had to build it themselves. Even though it was simple, it was very important. It showed that personal computers could become real products for regular people. This was the moment when Microsoft was born. Microsoft was founded in 1975 by two friends, Bill Gates, Paul Allen. They met in high school in Seattle. Both loved computers. Paul Allen was older and introduced Bill Gates to programming. When they saw the Altair 8800, they had an idea. The Altair did not have good software. It needed a programming language so people could write programs for it. Bill Gates and Paul Allen created a version of the programming language BASIC for the Altair. They contacted the company that made the Altair, called MITS, and offered their software. MITS agreed to work with them. This was Microsoft's first big deal. At this time, Microsoft was very small. It only had a few employees. Bill Gates focused on business and contracts. Paul Allen focused more on technical work. In 1979, Microsoft moved from New Mexico to Washington State. This move helped the company grow faster. Microsoft's first product was Altair Basic. It allowed users to write simple programs. This product made Microsoft known in the small but growing personal computer world. The most important event of this period happened in 1980. A large company called IBM decided to enter the personal computer market. IBM wanted to build a personal computer quickly. They needed an operating system, the main software that controls the computer. At first, IBM talked to another company called Digital Research, but the deal did not work out. Then, IBM contacted Microsoft. At that time, Microsoft did not have an operating system, but Bill Gates said yes anyway. He believed they could get one. Microsoft bought an existing system called QDOS from a small company and improved it. They renamed it MS-DOS, Microsoft Disk Operating System. In 1981, IBM released the IBM Personal Computer with MS-DOS. This was a very smart business move. Microsoft did not sell MS-DOS only to IBM. They kept the right to license it to other computer companies. This decision changed everything. Soon, many companies started making IBM-compatible computers. Most of them used MS-DOS. Microsoft became the main software supplier for the new PC industry. The most important strategy during this period was licensing instead of selling. Instead of selling MS-DOS one time, Microsoft licensed it to many computer manufacturers. This meant every company paid Microsoft. Microsoft earned money from each PC sold. Microsoft became the standard software provider. This was very different from IBM's model. IBM made money mostly from hardware. Microsoft focused on software. Another smart decision was staying independent. Microsoft did not let IBM control the company. This allowed Microsoft to grow freely. During this time, Microsoft also began developing other software tools, including programming languages, early productivity software. In 1983, Microsoft announced a new project called Microsoft Windows. It would later become very important, but in this period it was still in development. Microsoft's early years were not easy. In the 1970s, many people shared software for free. They copied it without paying. Bill Gates wrote a famous letter called the Open Letter to Hobbyists. In it, he said software developers should be paid for their work. This showed that Microsoft believed software had value. Other companies were also building operating systems. Some competitors included Apple Inc., Commodore International Tandy Corporation. But Microsoft's partnership with IBM gave it a huge advantage. By the early 1980s, Microsoft was growing very fast. Revenue increased every year. More computer companies adopted MS-DOS. Microsoft became a key player in the PC industry. In 1983, Paul Allen left Microsoft after being diagnosed with cancer. Bill Gates became the main leader. By 1985, Microsoft had hundreds of employees and was preparing for even bigger growth. The years 1975 to 1985 built the foundation of Microsoft's success. Important long-term effects. Microsoft became the standard operating system provider. The licensing model made Microsoft extremely powerful. Bill Gates became known as a strong and competitive business leader. The company prepared for the launch of Windows. Most importantly, Microsoft understood something very important. Software could control the future of computing. This idea would shape the next 40 years of technology. Between 1985 and 1995, Microsoft grew from a successful software company into the most powerful company in the personal computer industry. During this time, computers became common in homes and offices. Microsoft's product called Windows slowly became the main operating system used around the world. In 1985, Microsoft officially released the first version of Microsoft Windows. It was not a full operating system at first. It worked on top of MS-DOS. MS-DOS used text commands. Users had to type instructions. Windows was different because it used a graphical user interface, also called a GUI. This meant people could click on icons and use a mouse. It was easier to understand than typing commands. However, the first version of Windows was slow and not very popular. At the same time, another company called Apple Inc. was already using a graphical system in its Macintosh computers. In 1984, Apple released the Macintosh with a mouse and a graphical screen. Many people thought Apple's system was better and easier to use than Microsoft's early Windows versions. Microsoft continued improving Windows step by step. In 1987, Microsoft released Windows 2.0. It was better than the first version, but it still did not dominate the market. The real breakthrough came in 1990 with Windows 3.0. This version was faster, more colorful, and more stable. It could run better programs and use more memory. Businesses started adopting it quickly. Software developers began creating programs specially for Windows. This created a powerful cycle. More users attracted more developers, and more software attracted more users. During this period, Microsoft also expanded its productivity software. The company developed programs like Word and Excel, and later combined them into a package called Microsoft Office. Microsoft Office became very popular in businesses. Companies liked that Word, Excel, and PowerPoint worked well together. Because most Office computers used Windows, Microsoft Office became the standard for work documents. In 1986, Microsoft became a public company. It sold shares to the public through a stock market offering. This made Bill Gates very wealthy. It also gave Microsoft more money to expand. The company grew quickly, hiring thousands of new employees. Its headquarters in Redmond became larger and more important. The relationship between Microsoft and IBM changed during this time. At first, the two companies worked closely together. They even worked on a new operating system called OS/2. But over time, they disagreed about the future of personal computers. Microsoft believed that Windows would become the main system. IBM wanted more control. Eventually, the partnership weakened, and Microsoft focused fully on developing Windows independently. In 1995, Microsoft released Windows 95. This was one of the most important software launches in history. Windows 95 combined MS-DOS and Windows into a more complete system. It introduced the Start button, the taskbar, and better support for modern hardware. Microsoft launched it with a huge marketing campaign. Millions of people bought it in the first months. Windows 95 made personal computers easier for regular people to use at home. By the mid-1990s, Microsoft had become the dominant software company in the world. Most personal computers ran Windows. Most offices used Microsoft Office. Software companies built their programs mainly for Windows. This gave Microsoft enormous influence over the technology industry. However, success also brought criticism. Some competitors believed Microsoft was too powerful. They argued that Microsoft used its control of Windows to push its own products ahead of others. These concerns would grow larger in the next period. Between 1985 and 1995, Microsoft moved from being a strong company to being the central force in personal computing. Windows became the standard operating system for PCs, and Microsoft's power in the industry became clear. This decade built the foundation for even greater success and bigger conflicts in the years ahead. Between 1995 and 2001, Microsoft entered one of the most dramatic and difficult periods in its history. During these years, the internet changed the world. New companies appeared quickly. Competition became intense. Microsoft became even more powerful, but it also faced serious legal problems. This period shaped the future of the company in important ways. In 1995, Microsoft released Windows 95. This was a huge success. Millions of people bought it. The Start button, taskbar, and improved design made computers easier for regular users. At the same time, something else important was happening. The internet was becoming popular. Before the mid-1990s, the internet was mostly used by researchers and universities, but new web browsers made it easier for normal people to explore websites. One of the first popular web browsers was made by a company called Netscape Communications. Its product, Netscape Navigator, quickly became the main way people accessed the internet. Many users downloaded it, and it grew very fast. At first, Microsoft did not fully understand how important the internet would become. The company was focused mainly on Windows and Office. In 1995, Bill Gates realized that the internet would change everything. He wrote an important internal memo called the Internet Tidal Wave. In this message, he said the internet was the most important development since the personal computer. After this, Microsoft moved quickly to compete. Microsoft created its own web browser called Internet Explorer. At first, Internet Explorer was not very good compared to Netscape Navigator, but Microsoft had a powerful advantage: Windows. The company decided to include Internet Explorer for free inside Windows. This meant that anyone who bought a Windows computer already had Microsoft's browser installed. This decision changed the browser market. Many users stopped downloading Netscape because Internet Explorer was already on their computer. Over time, Microsoft improved Internet Explorer. By the late 1990s, it became the most used browser in the world. Netscape's market share fell sharply. This competition became known as the browser war. Microsoft used its strong position in operating systems to win the battle. However, this strategy caused serious legal problems. The United States government believed Microsoft was using unfair business practices. In 1998, the U.S. Department of Justice filed an antitrust lawsuit against Microsoft. The government argued that Microsoft had a monopoly in the PC operating system market and was using that power to harm competitors like Netscape. They said bundling Internet Explorer with Windows was anti-competitive. The trial became one of the most famous technology legal cases in history. Bill Gates gave a videotaped deposition. In the video, he appeared defensive and careful with his answers. Many people felt the company was acting aggressively toward competitors. In 2000, a judge ruled that Microsoft had violated antitrust laws. At first, the court ordered that Microsoft be split into two separate companies. One company would handle the operating system, and the other would handle software products like Office. This was a serious threat to Microsoft's future. However, Microsoft appealed the decision. In 2001, the final settlement was less severe. The company was not split apart. Instead, Microsoft agreed to share certain technical information with competitors and allow computer manufacturers more freedom to install non-Microsoft software. Even though Microsoft survived as one company, the lawsuit damaged its public image. While dealing with legal battles, Microsoft was also expanding into many new areas. In 1998, the company introduced Windows 98, which improved internet support and hardware compatibility. Windows continued to dominate the PC market. Most new personal computers around the world still ran Microsoft software. Microsoft also tried to enter new industries. In 2000, the company announced plans to create a video game console to compete with companies like Sony. This project would later become the Xbox. Microsoft understood that computing was expanding beyond traditional office work. In 2000, a major leadership change happened. Bill Gates stepped down as CEO. He remained involved as chairman and chief software architect, but the new CEO became Steve Ballmer. Ballmer had worked at Microsoft for many years and was known for his energetic personality. This marked the beginning of a new era. At the same time, the technology industry experienced the dot-com boom. Many internet startups were created, and investors gave them large amounts of money. Stock prices rose very quickly. Microsoft's stock price also increased during this period. The company became one of the most valuable businesses in the world. However, in 2000 and 2001, the dot-com bubble burst. Many internet companies failed. Stock markets fell sharply. Although Microsoft remained strong, the economic slowdown affected the entire technology sector. During this period, Microsoft also faced criticism from software developers and competitors. Some companies said Microsoft made Windows difficult to work with unless they followed Microsoft's rules. Others argued that Microsoft copied features from competitors and added them directly into Windows. These actions made it hard for smaller companies to compete. At the same time, Microsoft continued improving its core products. Office became even more popular in businesses. The company also began focusing on enterprise servers and business software. Products like Windows Server helped Microsoft expand into corporate data centers. Between 1995 and 2001, Microsoft reached the peak of its dominance in personal computing. Windows ran on the vast majority of personal computers worldwide. Internet Explorer defeated Netscape. Office became the global standard for productivity software. Financially, the company was extremely successful, but this success came with consequences. The antitrust lawsuit showed that governments were concerned about Microsoft's power. The company learned that its actions would be closely watched in the future. It could no longer act as aggressively without legal risk. This period was a turning point. Microsoft proved it could react quickly to major technological change, such as the rise of the internet. It showed strong competitive instincts and business strategy. However, it also showed the dangers of becoming too dominant in a fast-growing industry. By 2001, Microsoft was still powerful and profitable. Yet the world of technology was changing again. New ideas like mobile devices, search engines, and online services were beginning to grow. Companies such as Google were starting to gain attention. The next era would bring new challenges that Microsoft did not fully expect. The years from 1995 to 2001 were intense, competitive, and controversial. Microsoft won the browser war, survived a major legal attack, and maintained its leadership in personal computing. But the company's image changed. It was no longer just a successful software company. Many people now saw Microsoft as a powerful giant that governments needed to control. This period left a deep mark on Microsoft's culture. The company became more careful in its business strategies. It also became more focused on protecting Windows, sometimes at the cost of innovation in new areas. The lessons from these years would influence Microsoft's decisions for more than a decade. By the end of 2001, Microsoft stood at a crossroads. It was still one of the strongest technology companies in the world. But the internet era had opened the door to new types of competition. The next chapter would test whether Microsoft could adapt again in a rapidly changing world. Between 2001 and 2014, Microsoft entered a new period under new leadership. The company was still powerful, still profitable, and still dominant in personal computers. However, the technology world was changing very fast. During these years, the internet became central to daily life. Smartphones became popular, and new companies rose to challenge Microsoft. This period is often remembered as a time of strong growth in some areas, but missed opportunities in others. In 2000, Steve Ballmer became the chief executive officer of Microsoft. Bill Gates stepped back from daily leadership, but remained involved as chairman and later focused more on his charity work. Ballmer had worked at Microsoft since 1980. He was energetic, loud, and very focused on business performance. Under his leadership, Microsoft aimed to grow revenue, expand into new markets, and defend its core products. At the beginning of the 2000s, Microsoft's main strength was still Windows and Office. Most computers in homes and offices around the world use Microsoft Windows. Businesses depended heavily on Microsoft Office. This gave Microsoft a steady and strong source of income. The company also grew its server business, selling software to large companies that needed to manage networks and data centers. In 2001, Microsoft released Windows XP. This became one of the most successful operating systems in history. Windows XP was more stable, more user-friendly, and more reliable than earlier versions. Many people used Windows XP for more than 10 years. It became deeply connected to both business and personal computing. This success helped Microsoft remain strong financially during the early 2000s. In the same year, Microsoft entered a completely new market: video game consoles. The company launched the Xbox to compete with companies like Sony and its PlayStation. Many people were surprised by this move. Microsoft was known for software, not gaming hardware. The first Xbox did not make large profits at the beginning, but it showed that Microsoft wanted to expand beyond traditional PCs. Over time, Xbox became an important brand for the company and built a loyal gaming community. While Microsoft was strong in PCs and gaming, the internet was creating new types of competition. One of the fastest-growing companies was Google. Google's search engine became the main way people found information online. Microsoft had its own search engine, but it struggled to compete. Google also began building online advertising systems that generated huge profits. Microsoft realized that the internet economy was different from the PC software business. In 2006, Google launched Google Docs, a web-based alternative to Microsoft Office. Instead of installing software on a computer, users could work in a web browser. This idea was part of a larger change toward cloud computing, where data and software are stored online instead of only on personal machines. Microsoft was slower to fully adapt to this shift during the early Ballmer years. Another major event during this period was the release of Windows Vista in 2007. Vista was meant to replace Windows XP with better security and improved design. However, many users were disappointed. Vista required powerful hardware, and some computers ran it slowly. There were also compatibility problems with existing software and devices. As a result, many businesses chose to keep using Windows XP instead of upgrading. Vista damaged Microsoft's reputation for reliability. Microsoft later fixed many of these problems with Windows 7 in 2009. Windows 7 was more stable and better received by customers. It restored confidence in the Windows brand. However, the bigger problem was not just improving Windows. The world was changing beyond traditional PCs. In 2007, Apple Inc. released the iPhone. This device changed the mobile phone industry. It combined a phone, internet browser, music player, and touchscreen into one simple product. Smartphones quickly became popular. In 2008, Google introduced Android, which allowed many companies to build smartphones using its operating system. Microsoft had been working on mobile software for years through Windows Mobile. But Windows Mobile was designed more like a small version of Windows for PCs. It was not as simple or as touch-friendly as iOS or Android. Microsoft underestimated how quickly smartphones would replace many PC activities. As Apple and Google grew rapidly in mobile, Microsoft struggled to catch up. In 2010, Microsoft launched Windows Phone as a new attempt to compete in the smartphone market. The design was modern and different, using live tiles instead of icons. Some reviewers praised its fresh look. However, it arrived too late. Developers were already focused on building apps for iOS and Android. Without enough apps, customers were less interested in Windows Phone. Market share remained very small. At the same time, tablets became popular. In 2010, Apple introduced the iPad. Many people began using tablets for browsing, reading, and entertainment. Microsoft responded with the Surface tablet, later in the Ballmer era. Surface devices combined hardware and software made by Microsoft itself. This was an important shift because Microsoft had traditionally depended on hardware partners like Dell and HP. By making its own devices, Microsoft entered direct competition with its partners. Cloud computing was another important trend during these years. Companies began moving their data and services to remote servers. Microsoft had the technology skills to compete, but it was not as fast as some rivals. Amazon, through Amazon Web Services, became an early leader in cloud infrastructure. Microsoft eventually built what would become Azure, but during the early part of this era, the company's main focus remained on traditional software sales. Financially, Microsoft continued to grow revenue during Ballmer's leadership. The company made billions of dollars each year from Windows, Office, and enterprise software. Profits remained strong. However, investors began to worry that Microsoft was missing major new technology waves. The stock price did not grow as quickly as some other technology companies during the 2000s. In 2013, Microsoft announced it would buy Nokia's mobile phone business. Nokia had once been the largest phone manufacturer in the world. Microsoft hoped this acquisition would strengthen its position in smartphones. However, the deal did not succeed as planned. Windows Phone sales remained low, and Microsoft later reduced its involvement in the smartphone hardware market. Inside the company, the culture during this time was often described as competitive and divided. Different teams sometimes competed against each other instead of working together. This made it harder to move quickly in new markets. Many observers believed Microsoft was too focused on protecting Windows and Office instead of creating new ideas. By 2013, it became clear that major changes were needed. Steve Ballmer announced that he would step down as CEO. The board of directors began searching for new leadership. The company needed someone who could guide it into the next era of cloud computing, mobile technology, and internet services. Between 2001 and 2014, Microsoft remained one of the largest and richest technology companies in the world. It expanded into gaming, enterprise servers, and hardware. It released both successful and unsuccessful versions of Windows. It maintained strong business performance. However, it struggled to lead in smartphones and internet services. Competitors like Apple and Google became stronger and more influential in new technology areas. This era showed both the strength and limits of Microsoft's traditional model. The company was excellent at selling software to PC users and businesses, but when technology moved toward mobile devices and cloud-based services, Microsoft reacted more slowly than some rivals. By the end of 2014, Microsoft was still powerful, but its future direction was uncertain. The company stood at another turning point, similar to the internet shift in the 1990s. It needed to adapt again or risk becoming less important in the modern technology world. In 2014, Microsoft began a new chapter with a major leadership change. Satya Nadella became the CEO, taking over from Steve Ballmer. Nadella had been with Microsoft for many years, working in the cloud and server divisions. He brought a different approach to leadership. Instead of focusing mainly on Windows and protecting old products, Nadella focused on innovation, cloud computing, and mobile-first strategies. He emphasized teamwork, collaboration, and a company culture that welcomed change. One of the biggest changes under Nadella was Microsoft's shift to the cloud. Cloud computing allows users to store data and run applications over the internet instead of relying solely on their own computers. Microsoft created Microsoft Azure, a platform that provided cloud services for businesses, governments, and developers. Azure allowed companies to host websites, store data, run virtual machines, and develop applications in the cloud. By focusing on cloud technology, Microsoft became a leader in a fast-growing market alongside competitors like Amazon and Google. During this period, Microsoft also made a major shift towards subscription-based software. Instead of only selling one-time copies of Office, the company launched Microsoft 365, which allowed users to pay monthly or yearly to access Office programs, cloud storage, and regular updates. This gave Microsoft steady revenue and allowed customers to always have the latest version. It also helped businesses manage software more easily and move toward online collaboration. Under Nadella, Microsoft also embraced open-source software and cross-platform support. In the past, Microsoft had focused mainly on Windows. Now, the company released versions of its software for iOS, Android, and Linux. This was a big change in strategy. Nadella recognized that technology was no longer limited to Windows PCs, and Microsoft had to work with all devices and platforms to stay relevant. Microsoft continued to grow its gaming business. The Xbox brand remained popular, and Microsoft launched new hardware and services, including Xbox Live and Xbox Game Pass, which allowed users to stream and download games. This helped Microsoft compete with other gaming companies and adapt to changing consumer habits. Microsoft also began acquiring game studios to strengthen its gaming content. During this era, Microsoft also invested in artificial intelligence and machine learning. The company built tools and services that allowed developers and businesses to use AI for various purposes, such as analyzing data, understanding natural language, and creating intelligent applications. Microsoft formed a partnership with OpenAI to integrate advanced AI models into its products and cloud services, further strengthening its position in AI technology. Microsoft's efforts under Nadella began to pay off financially. The company's stock price rose sharply, and it became one of the most valuable companies in the world. Revenue and profits grew, largely thanks to cloud services, subscriptions, and enterprise software. By embracing change and innovation, Microsoft regained a reputation for being a forward-looking company. At the same time, Microsoft continued to focus on Windows. Windows 10, released in 2015, became widely adopted because it was free to upgrade for Windows 7 and 8 users. Windows 10 included security improvements, cloud integration, and a unified platform for PCs, tablets, and even some mobile devices. The goal was to make Windows a central part of the cloud-connected world while remaining relevant to everyday users. During these years, Microsoft also embraced collaboration tools. Microsoft Teams was introduced to help employees communicate, chat, hold video meetings, and share files. Teams became especially important as businesses moved toward remote work. Its growth accelerated further in 2020 during the COVID-19 pandemic, showing how Microsoft had positioned itself to serve modern work environments. Under Nadella, Microsoft's culture changed. The company encouraged employees to experiment, take risks, and work together. Nadella emphasized empathy, learning from mistakes, and building products for everyone. This cultural shift was seen as one of the reasons Microsoft could adapt to modern technology trends and regain leadership in the industry. By 2020, Microsoft had successfully transformed itself from a company focused mainly on Windows and Office into a diversified technology company. It was strong in cloud computing, AI, gaming, software, and collaboration tools. Nadella's leadership had helped Microsoft stay relevant in a world where mobile, internet, and cloud services dominated. The company had learned from past mistakes in mobile and internet, and it was positioned to compete with other tech giants in the next era. This period showed that Microsoft could change, innovate, and grow even after decades of being the dominant PC company. The Nadella era proved that leadership, vision, and culture are as important as products when adapting to a fast-changing technology world. By the end of 2020, Microsoft was a global leader in cloud services, AI, gaming, and productivity, prepared to face the challenges and opportunities of the modern digital era. From 2020 to the present, Microsoft has entered one of the most transformative periods in its history. The company continues to be a leader in cloud computing, gaming, and productivity software, but the focus on artificial intelligence, AI, has become central to its strategy. Microsoft has also formed new partnerships and expanded its influence in both consumer and enterprise technology. One of the most important developments during this period is Microsoft's partnership with OpenAI. OpenAI develops advanced AI models that can understand and generate natural language, process images, and perform complex tasks. Microsoft invested heavily in OpenAI and integrated its technology into Microsoft products and services. This includes embedding AI into Microsoft 365 applications like Word and Excel, making them smarter, faster, and more useful. Businesses and consumers can now use AI for writing, analyzing data, creating presentations, and automating tasks. The integration of AI into Microsoft products is supported by Microsoft Azure. Azure has grown rapidly during this period and provides the computational power needed for AI applications. Companies around the world use Azure to host cloud-based AI, store data, and run complex applications. Microsoft has positioned Azure as a leading cloud platform alongside Amazon Web Services, helping businesses move their operations to the cloud more efficiently. Gaming continues to be another key area for Microsoft. The Xbox Series X and Series S, released in 2020, brought powerful hardware, faster processing, and access to a growing library of games. Microsoft has also expanded its gaming subscription service, Xbox Game Pass, which allows players to download or stream hundreds of games. Additionally, Microsoft acquired several gaming studios, strengthening its content offerings and positioning itself for the growing market in cloud gaming. During this era, Microsoft has also focused on collaboration tools. Microsoft Teams has become essential for remote work, education, and online communication. The COVID-19 pandemic accelerated the adoption of Teams, and Microsoft has continuously added features such as AI-powered meeting summaries, real-time translation, and integrated apps. Teams has grown into one of the largest platforms for business communication in the world. Microsoft's strategy has also emphasized cross-platform support. The company develops software that works not only on Windows PCs, but also on iOS, Android, and Linux. This approach ensures that Microsoft's products remain relevant even as users shift to mobile devices and different operating systems. Cloud-based services like OneDrive, Office 365, and Azure further strengthen Microsoft's presence across all devices. Financially, Microsoft has continued to grow strongly. Its stock value and market capitalization have reached record highs. Revenue growth is driven mainly by cloud computing, AI services, enterprise software, and subscription models. The company's success during this period reflects both its historical strengths and its ability to adapt to new technologies. In addition to business growth, Microsoft has also invested in research, sustainability, and global initiatives. The company aims to reduce its environmental impact, support digital inclusion, and develop ethical AI practices. These efforts demonstrate Microsoft's commitment to being a technology leader while addressing social and environmental challenges. The period from 2020 to the present shows how Microsoft has transformed again, this time into a modern AI-driven cloud-focused company. By leveraging partnerships with innovators like OpenAI, continuing its strong position in enterprise software, expanding gaming and cloud services, and adopting AI in consumer and business tools, Microsoft has prepared for the next decades of technology. Microsoft today is no longer just a Windows and Office company. It is a global technology leader shaping the future of computing, cloud services, AI, and digital collaboration. This modern era combines the lessons from its long history: innovation, strategic partnerships, and adaptability, with new technologies that will define the company for years to come.